Good morning, Philippines. This is Story Fast News, truthful service with no lies. I am Rose Analangan, the news anchor for today with Mr. Maki Ismael. For today's first breaking news, let's talk about the pre-Hispanic barangay government. In the prehistoric times, much of the Philippines were ruled by a Datu or Raja, who was a king and the sovereign of his village, the barangay. The barangay was composed of around 30 to 100 families. There was the institution of social classes, with the nobles referred to as paharlika, the affluent people of the community, the free people, Timawa, who engaged in daily labor, the alipin, who were slaves categorized as namamahay, who were accorded certain rights and privileges, and the sagigilid, who are fully owned by their masters. There were laws created by Datu, who was advised by his council of elders. So for the discussion about the Philippine government and constitution under the Spanish colonization period,
Let's talk about the Spanish colonization period. The advent of colonization began with the arrival of Spain through Ferdinand Magellan in 1521. Soon after, the Philippines was a crown colony of Spain through Mexico from 1565 to 1821. As such, Spain ruled with the help of the Council of the Indies, created in 1524, which was an overseas ministry governing the colonies of Spain. The head of the council was the Viceroy of Mexico, Las Leyes de Indias were the laws that Spain implemented in the colony. The Governor-General was the executive chief who also had legislative powers, and the Royal Audiencia served as the Supreme Court. The first government system based on the land partition was the encomienda. After Mexico declared its independence in 1821, Las Islas Filipinas was directly ruled by Spain until 1898. The patronato will provided for the union of the state and church, where the church was placed under the power of Spain, making the friars become politically powerful, or what is referred to as philocracy. In the local government, high political powers such as the alcalde-mayor of the pacified province were reserved only to Spaniards. To discuss the Philippine Revolution, let's hear from Ms. Inanod.
The Filipinos, who had been oppressed by colonial rule, had a history of rebellions and resistance. With over 100 rebellions and resistance occurring, the propaganda movement, led by Jose Rizal, was a significant force against Spain. But its effectiveness was disrupted by the government's exile of Rizal. The Katipunan, a secret organization against Spanish power, was formed in 1892 and declared independence in 1896. The Tejeros Assembly unified the functions of Cavite, leading to the dissolution of the Katipunan and the birth of the revolutionary government of the Philippines. Aguinaldo, who was in exile in Hong Kong, negotiated an unstable alliance with the United States, leading to the Battle of Manila Bay in 1898. The Philippine Army defeated the Spaniards in various provinces, and the Philippines declared independence on June 12, 1898. The secondary revolutionary government was established to stabilize a true democratic state and appeal to the United States recognition. The fall of Manila in 1898 led to the establishment of the U.S. military government, with General Wesley Merritt, Elwell Otis, and Arthur MacArthur serving as the first and last U.S. military governors of the Philippines.
thank you, Ms. Inanod, for the continuation of Philippine government and constitution. Let's hear more information about the First Republic and the Philippine-American War from Mr. Luna.
First Republic in the Philippine-American War. On September 15, 1898, the Malolos Congress was inaugurated at the Barswain Church, Malolos, Bulacan. Its first task was to draft a constitution for a formation of a republic. On November 29, the Congress approved the Malolos Constitution, which was drafted by Felipe Calderon. With much debates regarding some provisions, Aguinaldo only finally approved it on January 21, 1899. The Treaty of Paris was signed in December 1899, transferring the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. In 1899, Governor Otis announced President McKinley's proclamation, which Aguinaldo and Malolos government protested. The First Republic in the Philippines was inaugurated on January 23, 1899. The First Philippine-American War began on February 4, 1899, leading to defeats and Aguinaldo's capture, ultimately resulting in the Republic's fall. Back to you, Ms. Nalangan.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. We learned about how the First Republic was made and the defeat of the Philippines in the Philippine-American War. So for more information about this topic, let's dig more. Let's hear Ms. Pausal give information about the American occupation.
On July 4, 1901, right after Aguinaldo's capture, the U.S. civil government was inaugurated with William Howard Taft as civil governor. However, the military rule due to the continuing resistance still prevailed over southern Luzon until 1902, northern and central Luzon until 1905 after the execution of Macario Sakay, and southern Mindanao until 1914 due to Muslim resistance. The first stage in the development of civil government was done through the passage of the Philippine Organic Act of 1902, which was officially called as the Philippine Bill of 1902. Passed on July 1, 1902, the act provided for the formation of the All-Filipino elected Philippine Assembly, which served as the lower house of the bicameral legislature, wherein the Philippine Commission served as the upper house. The first leader of the Philippine Assembly were Sergio Osmeña, who served as House Speaker, and Manuel Luis Quezon, who served as Majority Floor Leader. Under the administration of Governor Francis Burton Harrison, the Philippinization of the Philippine government was achieved with the Philippine Commission to become dominantly Filipinos and 89% of government offices be occupied by the Filipinos. Finally, the Philippine Autonomy Law, or popularly known as the Jones Law of 1916, was passed by the U.S. Congress. The Jones Law finally allowed the Philippines to already work for its independence, thus leading to the independence missions. The end of the Harrison administration made Leonard Wood to become the next governor. His anti-Filipino policies made him unpopular to the government politicians and led to a mass resignation of cabinet members of what called the cabinet crisis of 1923. The OSROX missions are the 9th independence missions of 1931, headed by Senate President pro tempore Sergio Osmeña and House Speaker Manuel Rojas. Triumphantly achieved the Independence Law, her House Cutting Act. However, this was rejected by Senate President Manuel Quezon, who worked on his own independence law in the U.S. and returned with his own tidings McDuffie Law, which was the same provision as the previous one. Back to you, Ms. Nalangan.
That was indeed a great piece of information. Thank you, Ms. Pausal, for information about the history of the Commonwealth of the Philippines. Let's hear Ms. Ruiz give important information about it. Ms. Ruiz?
Yes, Miss Nalangan. Good day. On July 10, 1934, the Philippine legislature elected the representative to the Constitutional Convention. The delegates' task was to draft the Constitution of the Philippines. The presidential election of 1935 made Manuel L. Quezon as first Commonwealth President with Sergio Osmeña as Vice President. Under the 1335 Constitution, national defense was the priority of the government. Under the Commonwealth, new government offices were created, new cities were created, women are allowed to vote, and the Filipino, based on Tagalog, became the national language. So, for more information, let's watch this short video about Commonwealth.
Of Manila in the Philippines, Manuel Louis Quezon is inaugurated as the first president of the newly formed Philippine Commonwealth. Watching the ceremony is Vice President Garner and 17 other members of the United States Senate. For 37 years, America has ruled the 7,000-odd islands which make up the Philippine archipelago. Now, following the precedent set by Great Britain with her colonies, the Filipinos are to be given the opportunity of governing themselves. For an experiment.
That's it. So, back to you, Ms. Narangan.
Thank you, Ms. Ruiz. So for the last news, which is World War II, we have Ms. Torres to discuss it.
Thank you, Ms. Nalangan, for the last news for today. I will give information about World War II, which was our way to have an independent country, independent enough to have our own government without those invaders. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1941, the Japanese started their attack of the Philippines the next day. On January 2, 1942, Manila was occupied Executive Commission during the Japanese occupation in 1942. On January 3, the Japanese High Command proclaimed the founding of the Japanese Military Administration, which established the Philippine Executive Commission with George Vargas as chairman. After the departure of President Quezon, General MacArthur also left Corregidor. After months of resistance and valor, Bataan fell the Japanese, resulting to the death march from Mariveles, Bataan to San Fernando, Pampanga. About 70,000 American and Filipino soldiers died before and after the fall of Bataan after heavy battles and air raids. Corregidor surrendered on May 1942 to Masaharu Homa of the Japanese High Commander Resistance. Nevertheless, continued with the guerrilla resistance with leaders such as Manuel Rojas and Ramon Magsaysay. On May 5, 1943, Premier Hideki Tojo publicly promised independence to the Filipino people. As a result, the Philippine Preparatory Commission was organized to draft a constitution. The Philippine Constitution was finished on September 4 and was ratified by the Constitutional Assembly. The election of the delegates to the National Assembly was held on September 20 on the 25th. The Assembly elected the Speaker and the President of the future Republic. Benigno Aquino was selected Speaker while Jose P. Laurel became the President of the Second Republic. George Vargas ended his term as Chairman of the Philippines Executive Commission. On August 1, 1944, President Quezon died while in exile. Osmeña was then sworn to the office, Washington, D.C. as President of the Commonwealth. On October 20, about 174,000 American troops landed at Leyte with USAFFE Commander Gen. MacArthur and President Sergio Osmeña. The Battle of Leyte Gulf, the largest naval battle in world history, gave the Japanese their conclusive defeat against the Allied forces. On January 5, 1945, MacArthur landed in Lingayen, Manila with all its destruction and casualties was won in February. The Commonwealth government was restored in Manila on July 5, 1945. MacArthur finally announced the liberation of the Philippines to force Japan to her unconditional surrender. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed by the Americans with their new weapon, the atomic bomb. On August 15, 1945, the Japanese finally surrendered the Allied forces in a formal signing aboard the USS Missouri. On August 17, 1945, Jose P. Laurel in Nara, Japan, dissolved the Second Republic of the Philippines. That's all. Back to you, Ms. Nalangan.
Thank you for for the information, Miss Torres. That's all for our news for today. Again, I am Rose Analangan at your service, news anchor from History Past News.